couple more people, good. All right, Kelly and Erica, fair warning, recording this. So, all right, why don't I get started? I'm going to share my screen. Cut this down. All right. And I'm hoping you can all see this just fine. So thank you all for coming today. And we're here because, as you all know, we own several lots of land on Main Street in Northeast Harbor. And we're at the point where we're in the very beginning of our development of those lots and want some public input before we get too far down the road. So just a couple of reminders that for our organization, our mission is really to help revitalize the town of Mount Desert, and we're starting in Northeast Harbor, which has seen the biggest change over time. Let me see, I've got a couple more people coming in and I need to admit them. So there we go. So our long-term goal is to increase the number of people who live or work in Mount Desert, and we're starting in Northeast Harbor. And our goal here is to try and restore the balance between the year-round community and the summer resident community. And a big part of this will be providing affordable housing options for people who can, so far, not live here year-round, but also to support the local businesses. And we feel strongly that our plans are well aligned with the town's own comprehensive plan and recommendations that the town received from the Urban Land Institute back in 2012, and based on years of input from the community. And so today, our real goal is to help the process of bringing in some year-round businesses that the community needs, the community wants, and the community will support. And so a part of that is going to be looking back at what came before us. This will be a familiar photo to many of you, I'm sure, and some of these buildings will be well known. This is the Joy building that is no longer there, but it was, a big masonry block building, and it was quite a standout building at the time. And next to it is the Colonels, which exists today, but has a different stature now that that building is gone. Wing Spread Gallery came next. And then this building, which was, I believe her first name was Nellie Bunker, and it was a tailoring business. And look at all the people who were there at the time. And wouldn't it be nice to bring back a tailoring business perhaps into town? And so this is what the building looked like quite some time ago. And I'm quite certain that nobody in the audience today would remember this view of the town. But hidden in the trees here, I think, is a step up to another building that we can't see right away. So here's that same spot a few years later. Again, the Joy building, the Colonels, Wing Spread Gallery, the next building that we now own, and this little building here, which was at the time called Main Street Mercantile. I think the original Main Street Mercantile. And here's what a lot of us would remember as local color. And so the same building, but a very different view of it. The Main Street Mercantile building is gone. The whole storefront here has changed its look considerably. But this is what a lot of people recognize as local color and still call it that today. So here are the three properties that we own on Main Street. This first one on the left is 151. Many of you will remember there had been a restaurant there in different iterations. My favorite version of it was when it was 151 and my kids learned to love chicken piccata there. The second one is, the address is 149 Main Street, commercial on the ground floor. Right now, Aileen Sistone's business is on the left-hand side, and Matthew Baird, architect, is on the right-hand side. The second and third floors are apartments not currently in use. We've shut the water off, et cetera, and I'll show you some interior shots of that. And then 147 Main is the building formerly Local Color. Then it was Main Gifts by the Sea, and now it is Good Design Here. And Diana Brockendorf is one of our tenants there, and it is a commercial property on the ground floor and a single apartment up on the second and third floors, story building. So here's a closer look at those buildings. 149, again, two different storefronts. This is when we actually use that left-hand side space as our own office space, and Matthew Baird on the right-hand side. The door on the right here is to get up to the second floor apartment.
Yeah.
And folks, if you don't mind, if everybody could mute themselves, that would be great. So the second and third floor apartments. And interestingly, you can only access the third floor apartment by going through the second floor apartment. So that's something we need to take a look at down the road. And then this image, a different angle on that storefront. And you can see here is the door to the apartment to get up to the second and third floor apartment. And a nice wide range of windows there. And on this site where the green fence was, Diana has extended, she's built a little patio deck and pavilion and has some outdoor furniture there, which looks great. And many of you may have not seen this angle of that building at 147 from behind. So here's that entrance to the apartment upstairs. So the apartment has windows on great sunny views from the south side. And then there's this extension on the building. And so the top floor of this extension is part of that commercial space here, and the downstairs access into the basement. And it goes right into the basement of this building, completely underground. And so you can see that there's quite a drop off from Main Street back to this area and back. And I mentioned that because it'll be an important detail as we develop some of our planning. I wanted to share with you some of the current conditions, and I have some photos from the building at 149 with the 2 floors of apartments. This is from the second floor apartment. And some years ago, there was some real trouble with our roof. We were having some issues with water damage. And so you can see how it has hurt the ceiling here. We actually removed this door and have boarded that up because it was just rotting on the other side. There had been a second egress through this door out into a wooden staircase that we had removed. We took down some trees there to let some light and sunshine in because it was doing some real damage on that side of the building that carried down into the office space and the back end of the office space in Matthew Baird's space. And so we had to do some real work on that. We had some inspections done and realized that there is a little bit of asbestos in the stairway and some of the flooring in this apartment. And so that is something else that we would have to take care of in the long run. And then we had another incident with some damage on the roof, and some very strong winds blew off the front facade. If earlier images of this building at 149 would show some little detail across the roof section that was just blown away. And so here you can see, some of the wood damage that has occurred over the almost 100 years of this building, and some work here. So, the wood underneath, the layers of asphalt shingle tiling, and then a rubber membrane on top of that. We had a new rubber membrane put on the building some time ago. So, and then in the basement, this January, we had some other problems occur, and we had a pipe burst, and we have a basement full of water. And so we're so grateful to the water company that helped us shut off the water into the building there, and to the fire department, which helped us pump out all that water. And then thank you to the Northeast Plumbing and Heating, because they helped us cap off this pipe so this won't happen again. But we've got to keep an eye on this basement. And so it's an interesting basement, as the other one is. It is part dirt, a lot of ledge, some stone walls back here, and some old staircases. So the original tenants used to access the basement through an interior staircase. So we don't get there that way anymore. It's an interesting climb into the back of the building to get to the basement these days. So, but there are also some great features of, especially 149. These are some images of the apartment up on the third floor of the building, and some great wooden detail, wonderful doors, even old wooden knobs, and great flooring and great wooden details. But this is that staircase that goes from the second to the third floor, the only way to get up to that. So it's a little bit awkward if you had that third floor apartment to have to go through the second floor neighbor's property. So to accommodate all of the changes that we want to make on these and to really develop it for the next century's use, we wanted to find the right architects to work with. And so we went out and got some proposals from 4 different architectural firms. And we chose those 4 firms because they each had demonstrated their work with both residential and with commercial, but the right scale of commercial development. A lot of architectural firms that work on commercial properties they work with much more larger institutional endeavors, like schools and hospitals and gymnasiums, et cetera. And so we were looking for firms that had more experience with the kind of intimate, small town scale that we were looking for. And so we walked each of those 4 firms through the properties themselves. We shared with them the inspections that we had done on the property before we acquired them. And we told them what our hopes were for these lots. And that is to maximize the number of apartment dwellings we could have. And across these 3 lots, we could have 10 apartments. And that we would want to stick with the plan that is common along Main Street, which is a combination of commercial on the ground floor and residential up above. So it's kind of like a mullet hairdo, business in the front, party in the back. So we've got commercial and residential going on there. And so of those 4, 2 of the firms suggested take down the buildings altogether and start fresh. The third one suggested take down this one, keep that one. And the 4th firm said, keep both. Let's do what we can with those existing buildings and add on to fill out the vacant lot and as much as we can to accomplish the goal. And that firm was Matthew Baird's firm. And so here's an image here of Matthew Baird and a lot of his crew. And I think this picture was taken in Maine. Matthew is on this call with us today. And so you might recognize these 3 familiar faces: Matthew Baird, Parker Brown, and Hunter, who works in their firm. And so these guys have spent a lot of time here. Parker grew up here year round. Matthew grew up here in summers and now lives here for year round. And they've actually set up an office in Northeast Harbor in one of our buildings there. And so they know this property very well at this point. So we're thrilled to be able to work with them. So as I mentioned, we have the possibility of having up to 10 apartments, and that is based on the current zoning ordinances that allow in village commercial, you need 1,000 square feet on the property to have a residence. And so 2 of the properties have 3,000 plus square feet, and one of them has 4,000 plus square feet. So that would allow us up to 10 apartments. And so Matthew had done this initial run to say, Here's the building at 147, and you could have 2 apartments here, a studio and a 2-bedroom apartment. Here is the existing building at 149, and you could have a 2-bedroom apartment on each of the 2nd and 3rd floors. And then here would be the new construction that might wrap around and provide apartments of, here's a 3-bedroom, a 1-bedroom, and a 2-bedroom. And you could have each of those on a 2nd and 3rd floor. And finally, oh, and here's the commercial side of things. So the idea of having a cooperative kinds of business, it was the gallery in there at the time. We had Maine Gifts by the Sea, which was a co-op model of business, some office space back here in the extension on that, a restaurant, and a gallery retail kind of operation. But then they creatively went further. So here are the 3 original street front possibilities. And then he suggested, you know, on the ground floor and back, you could have more opportunities for more businesses, whether it was retail, cafe, office space, et cetera, have a restaurant that comes out to the back. And so more possibilities than just the original 3 street front that we were considering. And they suggested, you know, you could, given the space and their plan here, you could have this wonderful little pocket garden, perhaps an extension of outdoor dining space from that restaurant or some other garden space back here. So this is all very appealing to us. And when we look at plans from, you know, communities across the country, what makes a community interesting in its economic side of life? And sometimes it's these little hidden spaces, hidden gems where people can gather together and be a little off street and a little fun and a little out of the way in a cozy environment. And so this part of this plan really appealed to us. So we know we're going to have some of the real challenges we're going to have on Main Street there are accessing power. We have, you know, part of our mission is to be concerned about our natural environment. And so we are doing what we can to electrify our heating and cooling of spaces. And so we would hope that we could add on solar panels on top of these buildings and maybe even some green space up on top of these buildings to really, more than just a nod to the environment and concerns over it, but really to help electrify this building. And parking is going to be our other major concern. I think anybody who's been in here in the summertime knows parking is at a premium. And this year, with snow piling up on Grey Cow parking lot, I look out on every day, I'm like, yeah, even in the winter, I get it. Parking is a big concern. And so how do we accommodate enough parking for all the apartments we could have, as well as the businesses that we want to have there? And so I'm going to go back a little bit and look at the this commercial space here. And Matthew Baird's plan for us is to take advantage of that big drop off from street level to the back of this lot, where there is already a 6-foot drop in space. You could see as we looked at the back of this area here, it's walk-in space. It's a full height in the basement to get underground here. There's a big drop off, and we might want to consider underground parking to accommodate as many cars as we can underground and keep this level here, street level, above any kind of parking areas. So it would be a huge undertaking and quite a change for this community, but it might seriously address the parking issues that we all have in town here. So that will be one of our challenges, but it's something that we're considering. So now the question comes, and why we're here today is, what kind of businesses do we want in here? And so we've been asking this question for a while. And back in 2019, our last full-fledged holiday festival, when none of us were wearing masks, we were in our old space at 149. We had that great big red wall, and we had a lot of people coming into our space. We had businesses from our boot camp providing pizza and bread and flowers and oysters. And we had a whole crowd of people in the back of the room. We had food and drinks and beverages when we could all stand around and gather like that. We kind of miss those days. And we used this wall to let people put their suggestions, like throwing spaghetti at the wall. What would you like to see? What do you like about small town life? And what would you like to see? So this was our wishing wall. And we had these white sticky notes and magic markers to have people fill out. And so we got a lot of suggestions then. And these were some of our favorites. We want a mermaid shop for grills, for girls, laser tag arena, a restaurant run by kids, a unicorn shop for boys or girls, and an indoor playground. And so these are, fun examples like, okay, let's see how we can pull this off. The laser tag arena and indoor playground, we've gotten those from some adults as well as, how about a place where we can gather and have some fun, whether it's pool tables, ping pong tables, darts, something, a place like, so I kind of think that that's in the spirit of what these kids really wanted. So we also then, again, before we all shut down for COVID, had a fabulous visioning session in February of 2020. And we asked everybody in attendance we asked them 3 questions. What are the strengths of this community? What do you love and why do you continue to live here? What are the challenges that we're all facing? And what would you like to see in our future? And so these were some of the ideas that came out of that last question. What do you want to see? So grocery stores, food was a big item in here. A cafe, bookstore, a restaurant year round, a winter's farmer market. It kept coming up over and over. But there were some other things, and some of these things have happened since this time. A salon. Well, we don't have Bella's anymore, but now Roberto Hostins has come in, so that's great. IT computer repair service. We don't have it here, but we do have it in Soamesville with Coastal Computers. Satellite COA programs, COA is doing some stuff, and so we may have some opportunities there. A local accountant. We get a lot of calls for office building space. Do you have any space you can lease out for more than the summer? Expanded winter recreation, so now in Seal Harbor, there is that opportunity with Acadia Outdoors. A makerspace is something that we are actively working on. A brew pub and a neighborhood pub, that often keeps coming up. A breakfast space, a source for school supplies. These are all interesting things. And I'll tell you, the first week that I was here, a men's clothing store was something that came up then, and it continued to come up later. So now we have to figure out, okay, what businesses do we really want? And maybe a way of getting at that is to consider, where do you go now and why for any of these things? Where do you go now for food? Where do you go for fun? Where do you go for your healthcare service or necessities? Where do you go for services, home goods, clothing, etc.? Because what you're doing now means that you might be leaving this community to go there and get it. So what is about those businesses? How far do you have to go? If we can bring some of those things that you're already doing now, bring it closer to home, it makes it more convenient for the people who live and work here to be able to shop locally, but it would also have a positive impact on the environment, cutting down people's needs to drive anywhere, 20 miles here and there to go get what you need. If we can bring those things closer to home, we can have a positive impact on the environment as well. So the other things to consider might be what's missing locally or on MDI or Hancock County at all. What have you experienced elsewhere that you think would work here? What would improve the quality of life here? And because whatever businesses we might want to attract here, we want to make sure that they are going to be successful. So a big question is, what would you support by being a regular customer if we did bring it here? So I'm going to end it with that. And I have a question. There are a couple of people online here that I want to bring in and see if they might want to share anything. The town is always in flux, and things are happening. You can see that Erica's store on Main Street, that's a whole new building that went up. And there's a vacant lot next to her. And someday that's going to be developed as well. And I think I can share, because we have shared it already publicly. Greg Johnston owns that property, and he will be building a building there, so he can relocate his own business from Southwest Harbor into his own building. So that's going to bring a lot more people to work here every day in Northeast Harbor, which would be great. But he wants to lease out the ground space there, and he had given us permission some time ago. If anybody's interested, they can get in touch with him. And we know that there are going to be some other changes. Property has changed hands down at the other end of Main Street. When you first pull in, those businesses have changed hands. So what changes are we going to see there? And I think that Kelly Brown, if she wants to speak up, Brown's is thinking of some changes themselves. So I wanted to give her an opportunity to talk about what they might have in mind as well. So Kelly, you've got the floor.
Hi, Kathy. Sorry. Hello, everybody. Thanks, Kathy, for letting us chit chat with you guys. Super exciting, all these new changes. Yeah, we've had some changes this year for us. Sadly, we lost Buddy this year, but we're moving forward, and we're going to bring back sort of the old history of the town, sort of circle back around to the original FT Brown back when SB owned it, sort of the idea of a very general store feel, really accent the old and traditional. But we are hoping to incorporate bulk products. We really want to start bringing in products that are thoughtful, sustainable, good for all of us. Sort of something that's always been important to Tom and I, and now we can actually sort of start bringing in a little bit that sort of puts our little stamp on the store and, feels really right to us. So we're hoping to carry like bulk laundry detergent, dish soaps, hand soaps, bulk beeswax, just pretty much feel good stuff is sort of our goal. We still will have a lot of the traditional hardware, but 5 hammers, not really necessary, maybe 3 or 4 hammers. Sort of that idea, just being really thoughtful about what we buy and what we bring in. The marine store will move up front with the clothing, and down back, we're hoping to the barn's getting renovated, and the old marine store it's sort of up for grabs right now. We're sort of playing with some different ideas. Sort of why I'm here. I'd like to hear what people are thinking. And then we're also hoping down the road to put in a second apartment so we can bring in some more living space as well. So a little bit of what we're thinking. We're super open to thoughts. Again, thank you all for being here today.
Thank you, Kelly. Exciting stuff going on there. So I want to open it up to anybody else. What would you personally like to see, and what do you think the community really needs? Anybody feel free to unmute yourself and shout out.
I would take a dive, Kathy. It's Miriam Pyle.
Thank you.
And this, of course, harks back to food, but I think a central feature will be, and I want to speak with care because I really like the folks and have known since their childhoods, the people who own and run the Pine Tree. But we really do need a clean and more mid-price point grocery store, even if the shift, recognizing that it is a different audience in the summer. But if we could have a year-round, an off-season store that was modestly stocked. When I looked at your list of where do you go, the first thing I know is that I'm either in Bar Harbor or Ellsworth. And it is, I say kind of with embarrassment, in part because I feel like I'm priced out of the Pine Tree. Like I can't do extensive full shopping there on what I like to manage for a budget. I would also hope that if we were to bring in that kind of enhanced kind of grocery store, or maybe the owners would like to be drawn into a conversation. I don't know where they stand on things. They've obviously got a business plan that suits their lifestyle. And that's, of course, always the privilege of owning a business. You get to set that model. But I do know that it is possible for a grocery store to get the kind of permitting that allows them, for instance, to receive a sealed carton from a pharmacy so that prescriptions can be picked up there. You can't fill things, but you could pick them up. It is perhaps possible to do that on the dry cleaning score. I don't know. But those two services, the ones that would be prescriptions and dry cleaning, I don't know how big dry cleaning would be for clothing, but I certainly know there are a lot of people for whom drapes and upholstery and things like that are yearly big. And the other thing, I don't even know if this is legal, but if we're going to bring lots of people in, could we find a way to expand our parking by permitting golf carts from Petter's Corner and in town? Because it would just reduce, I think, it wouldn't make a big difference in winter. Nobody wants to be in a golf cart when it's 8 degrees and blowing 20 miles an hour. But at least in summer, it might expand our parking by as much as a third without having to maneuver a single other thing on Main Street. Mm-hmm. And I guess they were the 3 things I was thinking about.
Great. Thank you, Miriam. And things we have heard. I mean, those are common things, and they have been for a decade.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it's bringing back the things that used to be here that have been lost. You know, the pharmacy and the dry cleaner. You know, they used to be here. So how do we get them back, or how do we make accommodations? And sometimes it's a service that could be here to pick up dry cleaning. You know, I mean, they do have that service in Southwest Harbor. So do we need dry cleaners here? Maybe not, but maybe a service to connect it. Erica, see your hand up.
I was just going to say that I had researched that a while back, and I don't know. I talked to Carol's Drug about they could do something where fill them, you know, and they get brought over kind of thing. It's really hard because you can't financially compete with a lot of these places like Walmart, who are filling prescriptions for a couple of bucks. And I did talk to Gold Star, and they, you know, it just is not financially, it's just too hard for them to try to bring it here. They had said that if somebody from this area wanted to bring stuff once a week or twice a week and pick stuff up, that's a service, you know, that someone here could provide, and they would give a small discount. But I just think it would be very complicated, and I'm not sure. I mean, maybe if someone could work that into their business and pay a person to go drive, I just don't know how much financially that would be worth it to someone, but that's what my research found.
Well, thanks for looking into it.
Yes.
Taking that far.
Could you speak to the retail space that in the COA building?
Yes, happy to. Thank you, Dorlin. So, as you know, we own that lot at 141 Main Street, and have worked out an agreement with COA, who is building their own building on there. They have 3 apartments that will accommodate up to 15 students, and they have a 4th apartment for a faculty or staff person. And part of the plan has always been to have some kind of commercial space on the ground floor. They did not have specific plans as they went through their planning board approval process for this, but they have since developed those plans. And so not so long ago, Millard Doherty from COA went before the planning board and shared information. And so I feel comfortable sharing with you all what he shared at that public meeting. It's in the minutes of their planning board session. So I can tell you this much. They are planning to have a business there that is food related. They're going to be working with their existing operations at both Beach Hill Farm and at the Peggy Rockefeller Farm to bring products, produce from those two spaces into Northeast Harbor and sell it retail out of that space. They're also working with an individual who has a business that prepares to-go foods. And so that person has been working with them already, is an alumni of the college, and would set up a kitchen. So their space would be part kitchen space where she's preparing food that is also using the resources from COA and other ingredients and selling it to go. So it's not a sit-down restaurant at all, but it would be a range of foods that are good quality and to go. And I think part of the plan is that in the wintertime, when there's not the same kind of produce to sell by retail, they would bring some tables and chairs inside and make it a comfortable space to get your to-go coffee or food and actually sit down there and have it. So they want it to be priced available so that their own COA students could take use of this, but also provide a comfortable space for them. So that is, it's exciting. It's consistent with what COA does. I think it will be well received in the community, but it will be, you know, we'll see how it goes. I think it's very exciting. I think that people will welcome it. And I think that as their biggest competitor in that will be the Pine Tree Market for produce. And so, you know, I think that there will be a little competition. And I think generally competition helps inspire going above mediocrity. So we'll hope that that might have a positive impact on other, other things available in town as well.
Mm-hmm. Kathy, I have a question about that. This is Donna Reese. One of my suggestions was going to be something very similar to, and I know I've seen you there, the Blue Hill Winter Market, the indoor greenhouse sort of setting where you could get your meat and your produce and you could listen to music by local people. And would that, is that the type of thing that they're thinking of? Or, you know, you could have a bread baker there, a coffee concession. Is that basically what you're talking about with the COA that you just mentioned? Or is that possible to do something like that if that's not what they're doing?
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the things about, I do love that Blue Hill Winter Market. And it is,
but it's no more. It's gone. They are never going to do it again. They're done. Yeah.
Which is sad because the beauty of it was the space being in a greenhouse was fabulous. And so, but I think that, yes, the idea that they could well have, I can't say exactly what products they're going to be selling in the wintertime or if it's going to be a co-op model. But I think that, you know, that's not out of the realm of possibilities. I don't know if the one individual they have in mind, whom they have not named yet publicly, so I can't share that. But I don't know that she would be doing all of the range of things that other providers might be doing at the winter market. But I think the idea is, yes, go buy your things there and have a space to sit down. Whether there would be music, I can't say exactly. There could be art on the walls because one of the other things that COA had talked about was, you know, is it a place to display artwork of more COA alumni? So it helps to cement the connection with the college as well, but put their work out into the public space. So there might be good visuals, if not good audio component of what might happen there. So.
Mm-hmm. And the thing I liked about the winter market was it was a gathering place. And although we all drove an hour to Blue Hill to be there, many, many people were from MDI. And it was a great place to sit down and have a cup of coffee or visit or even stand up while you were in line for Tinderhearth bread and all sorts of other wonderful foods and pastries and coffees and meats and everything else to do your shopping. So it accomplished a sense of community as well as an ability to shop. And I would say I would like it to be affordable too. So anyway, that was what I was hoping to add. And if it can't be through COA, perhaps maybe through another business. but I do think there's a need for community in the winter for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this could be that space. In my perfect world years ago, I was thinking exactly that is, could we create a greenhouse here in Northeast Harbor? We get sunlight days like this that offered that kind of a real growing space through hydroponics, because that is a growing area that might be in the realm of possibilities. And I know that there are COA alum who have and continue to work in that sphere as well. And
well, you know, I'm sorry.
Fresh local herbs and vegetables and an inviting environment like that could be a fun thing and a real attraction to people. So
that goes with along with my second idea in terms of a greenhouse, is that I think one of the things that I miss about my small town that I grew up in was we had a hardware store, and I adore our hardware store. But they had they always had fresh seedlings to sell. And I thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if we had a sort of a greenhouse situation where in the summer we could have someone, I'm sorry, in the winter, have the winter market, but also as it led into summer, be able to grow seedlings and all, because gardening has really taken off, home vegetable gardens, and maybe have some fresh flowers. So maybe even bring in one of the, like I go to Floret or, you know, to other flower shops, or there's a nice place in Southwest for cut flowers, maybe bring them into the mix, but to be able to grow seedlings in the space as well as have the gathering space. It doesn't have to be huge scale, but just so we could walk into town and with a cart and bring home seedlings. Why go all the way to Ellsworth if you don't have to Home Depot or something?
Exactly right. Good idea.
Okay.
And maybe COA can help make that happen, you know? So
Yeah. That'd be great. Well, thanks.
So, okay, thank you. Anyone else? Matthew, do you want to jump in with any ideas?
Sorry, I was on mute. No, it's just great to hear all the excitement and thinking that's going into this. And I really appreciate that you got us all together to talk about this.
Good, great. You know, one of the concerns we always have is, how do you support the existing businesses like restaurants if you're bringing in new restaurants just to create more competition? And I think that one way to achieve that is perhaps to bring in or consider food that's not already available. You know, I think that between the Colonels and the Nor'easter and Docksider, we've got lobsters covered, we've got Maine food covered. We don't have a whole lot of Indian food or Mexican food or, you know, great curries or anything, you know? So is there a possibility of having little niches of food that might extend the flavor palette and not be a direct competition? If people are coming and they really want that Maine lobster, okay, we've got you covered already. But what about some other options? So we want to be fair that we're not bringing in competition to hurt existing businesses. So I think that that's an important thing to factor in as we try and balance things out. Yes, Gloria.
I'm just going to piggyback on the food part, or African food that is totally missing on the island. And that could be a great addition to taste different African foods that you can showcase at a little, if it was a little place that people could go in and make food, but just having different versions of African foods would be great. Not just foods, but cultural sensitivity, that people could have conversations around that. I mean, food does bring people together to start with, and that could open up channels of communication, channels of just understanding each other as people, wherever we come from, and getting to know each other in that kind of setting. It could be through food, it could be through music, it could be through the way we dress, you know, it could be through materials, it could be through just about anything. It would be a place whereby you could do cultural shows, just to show different places where some of us come from, and something like that, that I think being here at least over a year, I have to get off island, I have to go to Boston, or I have to go to New York to get that. And that could be something that would be great. Artwork is part of that. We have a lot of art back home, or I'm from Malawi personally, but that could be a space that could be a learning experience for all of us, that we could learn from each other.
Mhm.
That's what at least I'm hoping to see.
Thank you. That's great.
I have a question.
Yes, Dorlin.
So I was really excited about this market idea. I can't remember who said that now. Oh,
Donna?
yeah. Because I've never been to the Blue Hill, but I have been to Belfast. Is that kind of the same genre?
They're similar.
Similar. Okay. So could something like that be set up in the neighborhood house? It's big and you could have vendors could you not use that because the space isn't, it's not the purpose of it?
Any space, I think, in my opinion, would work where you could bring people in.
I mean, could that space be used for that? I mean, would that be, I don't know who the space belongs to and all that kind of thing, but that's a big, huge space. I could see vendors in there and music on the stage. And I think if you had that in that space in the winter, you get people would come from Southwest Harbor to hear music, to get,
They may even come from Blue Hill, because now Blue Hill doesn't do it any longer because they lost their space. I'm sure they're looking for another one, but that, I think any space would be wonderful to be able to bring community together.
And that would be a good question for Neighborhood House. And they have done things like that. They've certainly, they have had lots of different art shows and exhibits of different people's work, both inside and outside the space in the summertime. And so there's always an opportunity to do that. And I think Neighborhood House is absolutely about bringing people together, as you can see from their community cafes, which still have over 100 people every time they do it in the wintertime. So you're right, people do want to get together. And so Neighborhood House is a great option for that. So
I see people, I think it's through Bar Harbor Barter and Swap often. I see a donut. I don't know, maybe it's not a woman, but I think it is. And they'll be coming on island and they'll say, oh, if you want donuts, we've got this many left. And, where are you? I can meet you. There's a bread company kind of going to one spot and then trying to get people in the winter to go to that spot. And I've been using Farm Drop for, I think, 3 years now. So I don't know, probably everyone knows about Farm Drop, where you go pick up your vegetables that you ordered, but all those things are like all over the place and they're not brought together for community sharing and getting together in the winter on a regular basis. So I love that idea. I
maybe
think
if we have enough people living here, we can be an attraction for different people to come together all at the same time, same place. Like the farmers market in the summer.
Yeah, and long as it's on a regular basis weekly, that you could rely on it, because not everybody can go every Saturday.
Right.
It's nice to have it available every Saturday so that it's there to rely on as your food source.
Yes, good. Stephanie, I see you have your hand up.
I was just curious, do you guys have some sort of timeline? I know you guys have projects going all over the, whatever, but do you have sort of any kind of outlook, I guess you'd say, of when?
Generally, it will be a while down the road before all is said and done. We need to do a lot of, we need to figure out exactly what our plan was, what kind of businesses we want to bring in. We know that this will be millions and millions of dollars to do that. We need to raise the money to make that happen. We need to go out to bid and hope that the dollars come back as we had anticipated. And then there's construction time. So, you know, the building that we're in now took a good year from start to finish, a little more than that. And that was with, you know, getting down into the ledge, and so some blasting. So I think that, you know, all told, we could be a couple of years out before this is all said and done.
Okay. Yeah, just kind of curious what, I mean, we've got some projects on Main Street, obviously. I mean, just wondering how things will kind of place out, construction. I mean, just curious, really, what,
You should get a little break from construction, because when they're done, we're not going to be ready to start. So you'll have some time off.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying. I'm like, okay, are we just going to go into the next thing or not? I mean, I don't, either way, it is what it is, but I'm just kind of curious what timeline. Is it like sort of a 2-year, 5-year, depending on how things roll out, I guess, for you?
And I think part of that meant, you know, we could spend months up to quite a long time coming up with exactly the plan we want and who it is we're designing for. So, you know, I think that the COA experience right now was they did not have a business in mind when they got approval to start their construction. They knew it was going to be a commercial space, but they didn't have anything in mind. Once they decided that they wanted to put a commercial kitchen in there, that's a whole new level of commitment. And they had to go back to the planning board, and then they go to the state fire marshal for approval, and then they come back for building permit so they can do it. So we would like to avoid that hiccup later and have a much clearer sense of what it is we're designing for before we actually start. So it will save time and money if we know up front what we're going to be doing. And but then once we have that plan in mind and some dollar figures attached to that, then we need to be out raising the money to make this all happen. So it, you know, it would be no less than 2 years from now that we're opening any doors. So, all
right.
I see your hand up.
You know,
Parker, you want to unmute and join us?
Yes. Hi, Kathy. First off, I just want to say thank you for organizing this. I think it's so great to hear from everyone and see what everyone is looking for. But I think what really excites me about this project is just the opportunity for housing it provides for everyone. And we have to keep in mind that this town is really desirable, and the whole island is really desirable. So desirable, in fact, that so many people can't find housing of their own. I'm actually looking to move back to the island this fall. So I'm looking forward to that, but not so much the hurdles that it is to find housing. So I think I'm going to experience firsthand. And it's a challenge for a lot of people, but what excites me about this project is that this is potentially an edge that Northeast Harbor has against the other towns, just to attract people down to its village center that, you know, breathes life into the community, has people going to the restaurants, all the new businesses that can hopefully open up from there. But, you know, they may come from away and they are hopefully young and can bring, you know, a new spirit to the town. So I'm just glad to have organizations like this one looking out for everybody.
Good. Thank you, Parker. You should email us and put in a real application. Let us know officially that you're interested. And hopefully your mother will let you hang around a little bit in the meantime. But,
of course, thank you. Yeah.
But who wants to live with their mother forever, you know? My kids don't, so.
I mean, she's great, but, you know, I do want my place.
Exactly. But, you know, when we started this organization, it was always a question of, what are you going to do first? Bring in the businesses or bring in residents? And this was always a chicken and egg problem. And I think in some ways they go hand in glove. You know, businesses will be successful if they have enough people to use them. But people will want to be here if they have local businesses that they can frequent, you know, the coffee shop that's open all the time and the place to hang out, et cetera. And so they do go hand in glove. And so if this Main Street property gives us the opportunity to do both at once, to bring everything together of businesses and people living here. So it's an important combination that we want to bring together, and are thrilled with this opportunity to do that. So, and we do know people are here and have winter rentals, and I fear for them about where they're going to go with summer when summer comes around. And I think that too hits close to home. And we know that, you know, some people downsize, they might sell their home, they want to downsize, they get into a rental arrangement, and then that rental gets sold out from under them. It's like, now where do they go? And so these are, you know, it's people at a full age spectrum as well. It's, you know, new people newly into the market, and older people who might be downsizing and finding that, you know, that next space that they don't have to worry about mowing the lawn and shoveling the walkway, et cetera. So, but they need consistency. They need to be able to make sure that they can stay put and not bounce around when you're, you know, 75 and 80 years old. So we got to look out for everybody along our age and ability spectrum to make sure everybody is taken care of. That's what a real community is about, I think. Any other thoughts, ideas, advice, input? I'll throw out one on because I'm always curious if other people think this is a good idea. We've been talking for a while about the possibility of a maker space. If you haven't heard or don't know what that is, it is a physical space that has tools and materials that people can share. That it, you know, if you have a hobby or a passion or a new business, you might need a table saw for a little bit of that, but you don't need it all the time. You can't afford to buy it. You don't want to do it at your kitchen table. But if there were such a thing as a makerspace, it brings people together. It could support businesses and hobbies and people of all genders and generations, et cetera. So a makerspace is something that we have been thinking of for a long time. And so we've gotten some support. We've done a lot of research, and we're putting, you know, final touches on a plan that we hope we can bring out and see if it's got real support in the community. But one of the other businesses that I have long thought our community needs is a place to repair things. I think along with reduce, reuse, recycle, we should add in a fourth R, and that should be repair. Whether it's clothing, furniture, shoes, technology, lamps, your stereo system. Everybody's got their turntable coming back, but is it really working, you know? So you drag it out of the attic or the basement, and you want to make sure it's going to work on your old vinyl. So a place to bring things for repair. I have my favorite shoe repair place down in Augusta, because I used to spend a lot of time going back and forth there. And I would make a special effort to get to the, you know, Tom Finn shoe repair down on Water Street in Augusta, and he's fabulous. But I don't go that way anymore. And 2-hour drive each way is a long way to go. So you know, keeping your shoes in good shape means you don't have to throw out the old ones and keep buying new ones. And what do you do with the old ones? So I think that some kind of iteration of that kind of work would benefit the community. So I'm wondering, does anybody else think that's a good idea?
I love the idea of a shoe repair. That would be so fabulous. That's another thing I miss from my little small town. We had a wonderful good man, and I would bring my shoes there and he would repair them, because always the top was good. It was always the bottom that just needed to be healed.
Exactly. The soles wear out because you're walking a lot. So.
Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
Good. Okay.
Could that be something that, I mean, it wouldn't be pure, but and I don't know how you'd market it, but it seems like you could have little shops in the maker's space.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
they're kind of the same genre. So
exactly.
A certain part of that building could do that.
Absolutely.
And that fits with the custom of having those small businesses. I mean, the shoe repair shop that was here, well, I didn't get here until 70, so I was never a patron, but it was down here on Summit Road, next to the, behind Russ Salisbury's house. And of course, we had that little grocery store, Smalls Market, just 4 houses down. So the idea of almost the micro business concept is something that sounds good. Is it economically viable? I love the idea, for instance, of the market once a week, because if the Browns are going to be doing kind of household and toiletries things, and then we added a market, we would have among the 3 spots where we could do shopping. And that might be enough to cover us.
It's a good start anyway.
Yeah.
Good.
But are those tiny businesses economically viable?
Yeah, I think what you're calling for is a market hall model, where a small vendor could have a very diminutive space that was not very expensive. And we've seen that be successful in towns. And I think it's something we should study, because the shoe repair fella isn't going to have enough business to rent a storefront on Main Street. But if they could rent, a 7x8 market stall, maybe every other Thursday, they might actually do quite well. So I think that's a great idea, to dedicate some of the space for a market hall type. The other thing I was just going to offer, hearing this, is I think food is primary to what we're hearing. And I don't worry so much about competition. There's the cluster theory of development, that the more options you bring, the more you attract. And it actually benefits every other vendor to have variety. And particularly in the food, diverse food offerings bring all kinds of excitement and events and different stimuli. And I think many developers have had great success combining, whenever they put in a new building, food attraction. And Chelsea Market in New York is the best example of that, where you would think, why would all these vendors be right next to each other? They're all competing. But the fact is, because they're all next to each other, they attract a ton more people who end up spending more money. So it's a funny thing that it takes a little bit of kindling to make a fire of commerce, and that's what I think you have the opportunity to do here, Kathy.
Yeah.
It's really exciting.
It is. I'll make a note. Somebody just put in the chat, getting their knives sharpened someplace. That's another thing that we could all use. Don't do it ourselves often enough. So
Now that Dana Haynes has died, there's nobody to sharpen our skates either.
Oh, there you go. See? And I don't know if you know this, but there's a little group of people who are talking about putting up a skating rink in town again.
Wow.
So we'll see. Eric and I are trying to see if we can make that happen down on the tennis courts.
Well, that'd be fun.
We're doing some brainstorming and learning from others, and it's another little operation that would need community support and little fundraising activity. So fingers crossed, and we'll try and find somebody to either rent out the skates or sharpen them. Oh, she's gone, but Brown's Hardware leases out cross-country skis. Do they also lease out skates? I don't know. But
I just wanted to give another plug for the market hall type of place. I think we're still pretty new in this area, and thinking about places where people can meet other people, like the gathering places. So there's obviously the spend money, support a business side of it, but then also really creating these community gathering spaces where you can have those sort of more intangible interactions that help, build a sense of community.
Absolutely. That is something that has come through for a very long time. The ad hoc Economic Development Committee did a lot of outreach and surveys of people, year-round and summer folks. And when they were doing the whole Main Street visioning plan, the village center plan, that was a part of it. Our own visioning session in 2020, and a place for people to gather comes out every single time. People want to get together. That's just human nature, and meet your neighbors. And it really does cut across generations and socioeconomic divisions, et cetera. So any place where we can have people get together over something fun, food, or, you know, enriching in some way or other, just a place to hang out is always a good thing. So thank you for that, Suzanne. All right, I see we have gone just over our hour time. If anybody has any final thoughts they want to pipe up, otherwise we'll let everybody get back to their day and maybe a late lunch and anything? Okay, and I'll say thank you all for all of this. It's very helpful and encouraging. We are going to put this recording, we'll put a link to it on our website so people can access it easily enough and then get in touch with us directly. If there's anybody that you think might be interested, we're going to do this session again next Wednesday, the 16th at 6 p.m. So people can share their input then anyway. Phone call, text message, email, in person at this session. We're welcome to all ideas and input. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kat.
Take care. Thank you. See you.
Thank you.